Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Bitcoin Summer. This is your host, Brian. Thanks for joining me today. Another crazy week in Bitcoin world. As always, I feel I am a broken record week after week. It's a crazy week. So let's jump into it. I wanted to share with you right off the top. Now, today we have a very, very special 25th episode. And we are going to be shifting gears a little bit on the show. And so I have a big announcement, and that's going to be coming up right after this. But we've seen some weakness today, and I wanted to jump into the charts I was showing you last week, just real quick. We won't dive into this too long. We got a lot to get to today. So, as I pointed out last week, this is the 3-day chart here. And I was saying that this RSI bounce could potentially lead to a nice little run, as we have seen in the past before, many times. Now, it did bounce off of that trend line there that you see, but it came back down. And it's currently, now we're sitting here at the end of the day on Friday, December 3rd, and it's looks like it may be finding its bottom and bouncing off this trend line again. So that would be interesting to see if the RSI is going to bounce yet again and use that as a nice area of support for the RSI. And as you can see here, this bottom trend line, actually it wicked a little bit below it, but now it's kind of finding that balance right at the bottom of that trend line. So something to be to keep an eye on and make sure that we are, still have a broad and pulled back view of the market. And the longer that we, the further that we pull out of the picture, the more bullish Bitcoin seems. And right now, I know a lot of people are down, a lot of people are out, but we need to remain on course here, because over the long term, we're in an uptrend. So whether we see another, some more consolidation over the next couple weeks, to be determined, but I just wanted to point that out here, that we are retesting that RSI line again on the 3-day. So something to keep an eye on, and I'll keep us posted here. But today I wanted to start off with a little bit about myself. On this show, I haven't done a very good job of personalizing the show and bringing, a face to the name, so to speak. But I wanted to explain to you a little bit about who I am and what my message is. And I feel like I haven't done a super good job of that. But if you go back and listen to the previous 24 episodes, you can get little bits and pieces of it. But I think, what has been determined for sure is I am a Bitcoin maximalist. I came from the traditional investing world, and I was planning on doing a podcast mainly on investing for many years. But beyond those facts, I haven't really explained a lot about me. So today I wanted to go ahead and do that. Now, what I'm eventually getting to here is that we are going to be, like I alluded to at the beginning of the show, we are going to be kind of transitioning into another phase of the show. And this is a phase of, I am literally going to be in front of you. I am going to be starting an investment portfolio. And it's going to be called the Bitcoin Summer Investment Portfolio. And it is going to be a swing trading portfolio, and we can get into the technical details later, but I'm going to be sharing all of that with all of you, and I'm very, very excited and a little bit nervous to do this and to be upfront and honest about all of the investments that I'm making. Since this is an investment show, I want to be totally clear with everyone what I'm doing, and to drill down at those specific dynamics and the tactics that I'm using in order to teach all of you what those specific dynamics are. This is not a trading newsletter. You should not, and I totally advise you to not act on the trades that I'm making. This is purely educational, and I just wanted to I'm going to reiterate that throughout the course of this experiment, but if you'll just bear with me, this is all educational, and I hope you do chime in if you have some good ideas as to where we can bring this portfolio. But basically, I am going to be creating a job out of it, hopefully, and if not, I am going to fail miserably, and it's going to be out there for you to see and maybe quite entertaining. But a little bit about me. I married the love of my life, a little cliche, I know, Allison, in 2018, and we have a 2-year-old named Julian. I have 2 failed careers in my life, but I've always been kind of a resilient, kind of dust yourself off and carry on type of guy. And I've never had a defeatist attitude, but I'm coming up on my 40th year, and I'm feeling like I'm running out of time for self-actualization. And so on this 25th episode, I have been planning on doing this portfolio anyway. I wasn't going to share it with everyone, but I thought it may be interesting for everyone to take a peek behind the curtain and see what a trader does. I am not a trader. I am going to be turning myself into a trader. I am an investor. So there's 2 different things. We'll cover that in a little bit. So I'm going to cover my new plan for fulfilling my dreams, basically, and record all of it for you every week. We're going to have updates. I wouldn't be able to do this without the help and support and love of my wife, and in part my monetary success of my investment choices over the years as well is going to be allowing me to carry on in this manner for the next year at least. So I have always had a lifelong dream of being my own boss. This time it's going to be in the form of being a full-time swing trader. So what that means, what is a swing trader? Some of the other questions you might be asking is, are you crazy? You have a family. What are you doing? Your wife should run for the hills. Things like that you may have on your mind. And I will cover all of those at the bottom half of the show here. But I have implemented some safety nets and some backup plans in case this experiment goes horribly wrong. And I just want you all to know that off the top that I am not putting anyone in jeopardy financially or otherwise. So set that aside for now. And I'm realizing that my attempt to teach as many people as possible about the power of saving, and my version of the ultimate savings is in Bitcoin. Obviously, this is a Bitcoin show, essentially. I'm not really doing a good job of teaching a practical way to invest, to save, to do things. And so that's another reason why I wanted to show you how to do it, or how I'm doing it, because that way you can kind of see exactly the certain tactics and things that I'm implementing, and certain different tricks that I'm using, and portfolio management skills and risk management skills that I'm using in order to create profit and an income. And so this goes back to when I set up my node, and I kind of did that live on the show as well in the summer. And the reason why I did that is because I like to tinker, and in a better way for me I did not understand nodes. I didn't fully understand the Lightning Network at first, so what I had to do was tinker. And this is just another form of me tinkering and doing it on camera. So what I want to do with the portfolio is be fully transparent about my portfolio choices, obviously my tactics, my trades, and my profit and loss. I'm going to show you all of that in real time. So if I do crash and burn, you will see it. And, if I start taking hits, you will see it. And this week has been hard. I've been doing this portfolio since October. So this week I'm getting hit a little bit. but realized wise, I'm doing pretty well. Not quite at the income level that I want to be at right now, but it's going to be a slow ramp up, and I'll share all of those goals with you as well. So this is not just a way for you to get to know the concepts, but that's a huge part of it. But you'll also get to see me succeed or belly flop in case that happens as well as time goes on. And don't worry, I'm still going to continue to do my tutorial videos on Lightning and all of my other videos, setup videos, and everything like that. I'm still going to be doing that and talking Bitcoin as well. This will just be another element to the show. So the general structure of the show won't change. I'm just going to bring this new element to it and hopefully bring on a whole new crowd as well too, because I would like to bump up my subscriber numbers as well, because this is content that I create all in my free time, and I don't ask anything in return except for your subscription and your likes, because that helps me get found and helps get the word out. And it is educational at the end of the day. So it's ad free as of right now, but if it does take off, it would be nice to do some sort of a tip system, and I could avoid advertisements. But as of right now, this is all of my free time. It takes up a lot of time. This video editing stuff and this sound editing stuff is not it's very time consuming, and I really appreciate you all being here and giving your time as well and being a captive audience. So thank you for doing that, and please share and let everyone around you know that this is out there as well. And I do need to emphasize this again. These are trades and tactics. They are not meant to be copied in any way. So I just want to get that out of the way. I have no idea what I'm doing with swing trading. So this is for entertainment and educational purposes. These are not investment choices that I recommend you take, because each of us have our own set of objectives and goals in mind. So you can't just copy and paste what somebody else does, and that's something very important too when you're going and watching YouTube videos online. You can't just take what somebody says as gospel and go in and do and go into the market and make those trades. It's not going to work out very well for you. So I do come from the value investing world. That's a very long-term, sloth-like world. The best way to remain successful in value investing or buy and hold mentality is to make the least amount of moves as possible. And tax avoidance is a huge part of this. But also, on top of tax avoidance, you don't have to be so right about everything when you're value investing or buying and holding, which is so simple to me. It's such a concept that is ingrained in my soul that it's by this point it is just a given. So you don't need to be so right about everything. You just need to be pretty right with a certain amount of a certain margin of safety. And if you do that correctly, you can be very, very successful in investing, but it's over the course of a long period of time. And what we're talking about with swing trading, it's on a smaller time scale. But I am not talking about day trading. So day trading is, you're checking out the hourly charts and things like that, and you're basically scalping, and you're just trying to make a 1% or 5% here and there many, many times a day. But you need such a trading edge that it's just a very hard thing to do. And also it's very stressful. And I've had, we'll find out later, I've had stressful businesses in the past, and it just didn't jive well with me and wanting to start a family and wanting to have my own life as well. So the swing realm is not something where I'm very familiar with, but I will be doing research along the way, and I'm going to be sharing all of that knowledge that I take in with all of you as we go along as well. And I'm going to be implementing a bunch of different strategies, but options strategies to boost returns, those are very dangerous. So pay attention when I go over my options courses and I will explain in detail what options are and the dangers and the pitfalls that you can, because I've gotten burned very heavily on options. So that's just a caveat there. Please do not follow me off the ledge with options. I will be using margin purchases, another dangerous thing that you can use to boost returns, and also normal stock and asset purchases I'm going to implement as well. So, for a little bit of safety, I'm going to be using just regular buy low, sell high tactics. But the most important thing that I will be doing and teaching is risk management, and this is a parallel to general value buy and hold investing as well. You always need to use risk management and portfolio management, because you don't want to carry too much or too little of something, and you need to time these things out right. So I'm over the course of the next year, I'm going to be explaining my process and hopefully getting better myself as well in the process. So come along with me with that, because I think the risk management piece is going to be the most important part. So my success is going to depend on how well I manage my portfolio, obviously, but it's going to be very hyper focused. My portfolio is going to be very hyper focused, because I do not believe in a super diversified strategy, at least not in a traditional sense. My strategy is going to be more hyper focused on usually one or two or three different assets, and trading in and out of those over the course of months or weeks, or even quarters. This isn't long term, but it's also not day trading. So you want to see general trends, like month-long trends or quarter-long trends in the macro sense, and make your trades based off of that to generate income. So let's jumped right into the episode here. We're going to get into more of the details about why I decided to do this, about why possibly am I deviating from my typical buy and hold Bitcoin strategy, and we're going to take a look at the portfolio itself. We're going to take a look at the Bitcoin summer portfolio at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Lots of exciting things in store this winter and beyond. I have my hot cocoa here. It's a little bit chilly out here on the porch, but in here, it's always Bitcoin summer. They price this out of the housing market. They price this out of the education market. They price this out of the stock market. They continue to price this out of day-to-day goods. We need to take this back. All right, so we're going to jump right into the Bitcoin summer portfolio. And now, just right off the bat, I just want to say thank you for sticking around, and thank you for bearing with the long explanation and the personal stuff, but I'm going to go a little bit more on the personal end. And I know some of you are not interested in that, but I just want to personalize this a little bit, and I want you to get to know me as well and get to know a little bit of my backstory. We don't need to go into crazy detail, but I think it'll give a broader picture as to why we got here. Why are we here? So let's jump into that right now. My professional life has been a series of successes and failures to a certain extent, and I started my first business in 2010. I was a mortician for 8 years. Believe it or not, a mortician. Yes, I was a funeral director. I got burnt out on my business, and I got really, really fried, and I burned a lot of personal relationships, and I just wasn't passionate in what I was doing. And I think that was the most important to me, is I wasn't happy internally. I was doing it for the personal freedom. I was definitely doing it to be my own boss, but I was definitely doing it for the money as well. And I kind of overlooked the more important things And around this time, I was with my now wife, and almost completely destroyed that relationship as well. So moving on from that, it taught me a lot of lessons about what actually is important to me. And now, what I did while I was running my business was I was continuing to build up my true passion as a hobby at this point, could be looked at as a hobby, I guess, was investing. And so I was doing everything I could to learn, read about it, listening to podcasts. I wasn't watching a lot of YouTube channels at that point, but definitely doing a lot of reading at that point, and just learning the basics of investing and what it means to compound your returns and compound your savings instead of letting it all sit and die in a bank account. So I was so enamored. Almost every single day I just studied, I devoured everything I could in the investment world. And this is before I got into Bitcoin. Obviously, it was 2010, so it was very early on. I knew about Bitcoin, but I it wasn't on the radar for me. It was still just mostly Silk Road stuff. But I started to take on bigger and bigger investments at that point as I got more and more comfortable with what I knew. And eventually I got out of my business and I entered into the service industry shortly after that. I was a mortician for 8 years, and then I was a bartender for 5 years. And what bartending did was, besides moving from the actually dead to the, emotionally dead, it taught me the value of cash on hand. There's something to be said about earning your money and getting it right away. So, bartenders earn tips, and you literally get to look at that at the end of the night and say, hey, I worked really hard for this. And it was instant payoff, instant gratification. And that was a huge lesson for me. But it made me realize that cash on hand is the poorest way to store your hard-earned work hours. And that lesson came a little bit, it wasn't instant right away, but seeing it in my hands and then watching that purchasing power get eroded away as more dollars were being printed into the system, that was something that came later, but gradually. And so I continued my investing in earnest because I, started to just realize that the only way to store your actual work hours is to invest in assets. So I went from stockpiling cash and paying off credit card, which is a good thing to do. And I went from that to transferring all of my cash into a brokerage account and placing strategic long-term investments. So by this time, this come around now in 2018, I got married. My wife and I, we bought a duplex together. So we bought a piece of income earning property, and we found out we were having a baby, and this was all within months of each other. So a lot of changes in 2018. Flash forward to 2020, and obviously the lockdowns weren't very kind to my industry, and my job was completely wiped away, as were a lot of service industry jobs. Now, this turned out to be a blessing, actually, and I would have just worked into oblivion and been a bartender till I was 60 years old, 70 maybe. Probably kept investing, but would have been a little bit less serious about it. So this gave me time to be super vigilant and super focused on my investing, but also gave me a ton of time with my son and my wife, and I got to watch my son all day during his early years, and it was just an amazing thing. I normally would have just been at work. So that was it was kind of a cool transition, and goes back to what I was saying about the things that are actually important in life. So I had been moving a lot of my investments into cash up until March 2020, because I was foreseeing sort of a crash, because we were going on a very long bull run since 2007, 2008. But I was not imagining the meltdown of our entire financial system. So I think after after Wall Street and the Federal Reserve were kind of revealed as, the entire system being propped up by this money printing, that's when I went, all in on Bitcoin, all in on learning about Bitcoin. My passion about investing kind of morphed into Bitcoin, which I don't really separate the two. They're kind of glommed on in the same form to me. So that's why my investing podcast turned into a Bitcoin podcast. So I decided I wanted to devote my whole life learning about Bitcoin, investing, teaching, but what would that look like? That it wasn't so certain to me. I was fresh off of being a bartender. That's all I really knew about, at that point. How do you transition into a life of Bitcoin? I had no idea. I had no clue. And all I knew, I needed to buy more of it. What I eventually did was put my money where my mouth is. And the last year went something like this. I entered into online classes to get yet another bachelor's degree, my second. And this one is going to be in actually something I'm passionate about, and that's finance. And I know a lot of people, are kind of down on the upper education system, but I felt it was a good thing to do to not only buy me some time into what exactly my next work life is going to look like, but also it's to have that base of knowledge is very important. I did a lot of self-research of investing over the years, so a lot of this stuff was secondhand to me, learning. But now going back and learning all of the things that I was too bored to learn about, that's a good thing because I would have never sought that stuff out. So I am thankful for that in that sense, that a traditional finance degree is something that I never thought I wanted. So it is strange to be here right now, and I only have until December, and then I graduate. And it seems like it's gone by very quickly so far, and it's given me an opportunity to not only do this podcast, but now possibly launch my own investment little portfolio. So I launched the podcast over the summer, and while I was doing that, I was developing this plan, and it's still kind of crude, but my plan is to generate fiat income, and obviously fiat income is needed for expenses. At least I don't want to spend my Bitcoin, so I like spending fiat because to me it's trash. And so that'll supplement my need for returning to the workforce at some point, hopefully. So my first plan was getting a finance job out of school. Then that kind of migrated to getting a Bitcoin job, preferably in finance. That's, that would be amazing. And now my goal has turned into being my own boss again and generating income and hopefully in doing so buying more Bitcoin. So we all have our own objectives. I'm just sharing mine. I'm not saying this is going to work for any of you out there. I just want to share it with you just so you know that some of you out there, you may be down and out. You may have hit the skids. You may have scraped your knee, but you can always reinvent yourself. And if you do it in a safe manner and have backup plans and things that you can rely on and education you can rely on in the background, you never have to worry about taking those risks. It's all about mitigating risks, and that's what portfolio management is all about. And the main key here is I hedged my crazy idea with a more practical one, and that's getting another degree in something that I'm passionate about. So I think it's a win-win-win. So why am I deviating from my buy and hodl Bitcoin? I talk about it all the time here. Why am I deviating from that? Number one, I'm never going to be getting rid of my Bitcoin. I'm going to maybe eventually borrow against it and do other things with it, but I'm never selling my Bitcoin, my actual Bitcoin. But I have no problem selling other assets when the time is right. I have no problem with that. This whole deviation from buying and holding Bitcoin, I don't see it as that. I see it more as there is a need for me to generate actual fiat income, whether that comes in the form of a job or from investments. it would just cause me too much pain to trade Bitcoin, so I don't want to do that. And I definitely don't want to do it on margin because, as we know, people get liquidated very quickly and you lose your stack. So what I see my current Bitcoin stack as untouchable. It's my retirement account. It's my wife's retirement account. It'll hopefully be Julian's retirement account, my son. So some of you out there might see buying other assets besides Bitcoin as shitcoinery, but I completely disagree. I think there's always opportunity out there, and you need to expose inefficiencies in the market in order to make good trades, and that's what I'm here to do. And I'm trying to turn my skill at identifying these longer term trends and trying to compact that down to a shorter term trend. So it's going to be some adjustment period, and you get to watch me do that and maybe fail and maybe stumble, but hopefully get back up and dust myself off and do it again. And as you'll see, I will mainly be heavily concentrated on Bitcoin related or Bitcoin proxy assets. If other opportunities arise along the way, I'm not going to hesitate to jump in. So don't be weirded out if I'm buying Apple. But I just sold Apple in the summer, so I probably won't be buying Apple. But that's just for instance. Just popped into my head. Here it is, without any further ado, the Bitcoin Summer Portfolio. I updated it today. This is December 3rd. And let's take a look at what we're working with here. So my initial funding, it may seem like a lot to a lot of you, but if you think about starting your own business, this 15,003 that you see up here, it's not a lot in the terms of starting up your own business. So if I'm able to do it on a $15,000 budget, I'm going to be more than happy. And I have 5 or 6 somewhere around there waiting in the wings if I get a little stretched out and I need to inject, but I'm hoping not to do that. But if the opportunity arises and things get very, very cheap, because we saw some weakness this week, and that's when I buy. I buy when I see weakness. And, I like to do it strategically, but, we'll see. Hopefully I don't have to dip in. I have, as you can see here, $6,000 more in my cash position from this original 15,000, just sitting there waiting for more dips. And I was buying a little bit today, but also I'm going to be probably buying over the weekend as well. And we'll see, because traditional markets are closed and a lot of these assets are traded on traditional markets. So with all of the cash that's sitting around, which was originally this, $15,000, I have that sitting in stable coins. So that's earning, and I'm not telling you which company because it's not a sponsor. If you guys want to pay me out there, that's fine. But let's just say it's spread around a couple different companies. Now that's earning anywhere from 9 to 10%, right around that area. And so as you can see here, already earning, November, the month of November, I earned $154 in Bitcoin, actually. So it places it automatically in Bitcoin. So therefore, if Bitcoin appreciates, that appreciates as well. But I have it out in US dollar form, and I just have that tagged on to my realized gain and loss. Now, granted, it's in actual Bitcoin, and I won't be selling that. That's just going right into my, my Bitcoin savings account, if you will. Now, I will either use our income and just supplement that out, or I will pull that out of the other cash pile. Just so you know that Bitcoin will not be sold. But I do want to calculate that as earnings, because that is coming from the cash position, and it is a nice return, actually. When I was doing traditional investing and value investing, you want to make at least 10%, because traditionally the S&P 500 will return 10 or 11% on average over the course of the last 100 years. So it's a pretty safe bet. And if you're not beating 10%, you should just be putting your money in a S&P 500 ETF and calling it a day, because you're not beating the market. You could be saving yourself a huge headache, and you'll do very well. But so my goal was always at least 11%, but aim for that 20% range. So in the traditional market, I was almost there. And you would have cash in a brokerage account earning 0.04%, and you're not seeing these kinds of numbers for 3 years, even if you have tens of thousands of dollars in an account. So anyways, I wanted to stipulate that that's a part of my investment strategy. So anything that I'm not investing in an asset is sitting in stablecoin and earning an interest. There is risk involved with that, but there's risk involved with buying assets as well. So that's why I have it spread over a couple different companies. And I suggest if you are going to do that, you do the same, because that is exchange risk, and it is risk getting your stablecoin stolen or lost or whatever can happen with an exchange. So let's take a look at my realized gain and loss. Now, these are trades that I've made. So I started this portfolio October 21st. And as you can see, my profits are looking pretty good. And I didn't list out exactly what those are, but those are literally all options, call options. And a call option is betting that it's a derivative, and it's betting that the underlying stock is going to go up. And those are all HUT 8 call options. And HUT 8 is a Bitcoin mining company. And I have alluded to this on Twitter. I have been buying HUT 8 calls on every single Bitcoin dip. Now, I did just talk about how dangerous options are, especially buying call options and buying like out of the money call options. Very hard to consistently make a profit with this strategy. As you can see, since Bitcoin has been on the way up, it's been a super good strategy for me. I have pocketed, besides my stablecoin income, I have pocketed whatever it is, right around $1,600 or $1,700 since October 21st. Not the level of income that I want over the long term, but I need this stuff to snowball, and therefore take some risk off the table and let the rest snowball and just keep that process going. And that's generally my attitude towards this portfolio. Now, as you can see, only one of them has expired out of the money, and I lost $100 on that call. And that's what will happen with options trading. So you want to make sure that most of them succeed and be very patient with them. You want to buy them at the lows, and when the VIX, and that is the volatility index, you want to make sure the VIX is very low. It had a very bad day when you're buying, and it had a very good day, or at least, an even day when you're selling, because options prices are based off of volatility. So I'm going to get into that way more in detail coming up, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show you guys my portfolio, because this will help me explain what options are exactly. So I think maybe the next episode we're going to be doing a full options episode. And so let's move on here to now, as you can see, my realized gain and loss, $1,865. And my current asset allocation is $10,700. Now, that is the cost, not the market value. So as you can see on my Bitcoin Summer Portfolio section at the bottom left here, all of my assets right now are down. We had a rough week, especially those call options. Those are the HUT-C. Those are all down double digits, almost 100% down. 82%, minus 83%, minus 74%, because those very quickly can turn on you. Now, my expiry dates are not until December 23rd, so I have some time for that first set to expire, and then December 31st, so I have even more time for those to expire. At HUT 8 needs to get to $14.50 or $13 by December 31st. And today it just took a hit to like $9.50. And we were trading at $16 a couple weeks ago. So it is possible for me to recover. But as you can see, options can turn on you super quick, which is why I have most of this portfolio. And I'm gonna I was gonna do it on this, and I totally spaced on it, but I'm gonna do a percentage of the portfolio as well, so you'll get to see what I've allocated each asset as a percentage of the portfolio. So as you can see, my GBTC is the largest portion, almost half of my entire cost basis. The reason for that is because I can't be called out on it. I can't lose on it. And my other one is actual the Hut C. I mean the Hut. I put Hut C, but it's actually Hut. The actual stock. Now I have 300 shares of that, and that's on margin. So I didn't put all of my money into that, and I will go into details about what I'm doing with this particular trade for sure next episode. I bought 300 Hut calls. I bought 300 Hut shares, and what I'm going to be doing is once it rises to a certain level, I am going to be selling call options and earning income that way. And I'll show you exactly how to do that and how I'm planning to do it in my portfolio. And the reason why I don't want to go into detail is because it is pretty complicated. But just so you know here that I'm not only doing it with margin, but I'm also going to be selling calls on top of that. And that's a super good way to boost your returns. And it's a total risk-free way to do it if you're bullish on a certain stock. And I'm definitely bullish on Hut 8, and I will go into the details as to why I'm doing that too. We'll do a deep dive on Hut 8 mining as well. So I have just a tiny bit of actual Bitcoin, and it's just right around 300,000 just over 300,000 sats. And that was just, I saw an opportunity, and actually it turned out to be not a super good time to buy. It was just over $60,000, and it's trading right at $54,000 right now. I'm not worried about it, obviously, but things are getting hurt right now. But I've had a really good run up until this point, so I have room to take a little bit of damage. And so what I'm going to be doing, and what I was doing today, was buying Hut shares. And actually, I'm really excited about that move because I got a really good deal on it today. And I got my cost basis right around $11. And like I said, it was trading at $16, like not even more than a couple weeks ago. So this is going to be a very interesting little couple weeks here because we're seeing some weakness in Bitcoin. As you can see, the price right there at 54,100. And my profit goal for 2022 is going to be $24,600. Now, that is from $15,000 base. So that's 161% that I want to earn. And the way that I can do that is making these 20% trades, but you do them over and over and over and over again. Hopefully. You want to have a lot of turnover, but not a ton, because again, we're not day trading. So my goal is to get this portfolio up to $40,000 by December next year. Now we'll see if that happens. We'll see if I can go past it. We'll see if I completely just nuke the whole thing and it completely gets destroyed. We will find out. But the bottom line here is, I have a dozen or so sales here and only one loss so far. But I could be looking at if these December 23rd calls expire out of the money, I'm going to take a hit on those. But it's only about $485. I have over $5,000 in GBTC. And the reason why I have GBTC, and I've talked about this before, I believe it's going to be converted into an ETF eventually. And I bought them right around a 15% discount, or maybe it was around 18% discount at the time of purchase. They're negative 11% right now, my shares. So not doing the greatest, but this is a longer term trend, and I knew that going into it. And I do have a little bit of dry powder on the side in case I need to lower my cost basis a little bit. I'm not gonna yet because it's taking up a large portion of the portfolio as it stands. But I'm going to aim to sell those around the $57 mark, and that's right around the all-time high for GBTC. So, in conclusion, as you can see, we are we're on the precipice of finding out if these HUT calls are going to expire out of the money or not, and that will be in 20 days. So, a couple Fridays from now. And just before Christmas, I'm going to see if we can get back up to $12.50 or $14.50. I'll be back in the money and hopefully not lose my shirt on these call options, but I have some room to take a little bit of a hit. And I have some other ideas on the docket, and I'll share those with you next week as well. But for now, just remember, don't use any of these as trading advice. But do your own research. If you like the idea of getting GBTC at a discount and you want to do a short-term trade on it to generate some income, I've talked about this before. Don't be afraid to pick some up. If you have a 3-month, 6-month, 1-year time horizon, you don't have to hold on to these things like I'm going to be holding on to Bitcoin for the rest of my life. You can trade and sleep at night. You don't have to be this monk and deny yourself an opportunity to make a little bit of cash on the side. That being said, unless you're super comfortable with trading options, stay away from those and let's learn about them together. And if you do want to follow a couple of these trades on paper, there's a couple different websites online. You can do paper trading, and actually, you can just make like you're making a trade, but you're not actually using money, and it'll track the portfolio for you. Or you can just continue to watch the show, subscribe to the show, and check this out, and watch my portfolio either grow or go down, and we'll see. We'll see within the next couple weeks here. I have a feeling that we're, like I was showing you at the beginning of the show, we might be bottoming out, hopefully, on the RSI, and we might see some consolidation for the next couple weeks. But I think into January, we're going to start seeing some strength, and we're going to start seeing some really good Bitcoin action, because there is so many coins being taken off of exchanges. But we're in this moment right now where the macro view is looking super bearish because the Fed's talking about doing some more tapering. I've talked about that a little bit. If you're unsure about what tapering is, you can go back on a couple older episodes. But let me just simplify it by saying the Fed is going to try to mess with the system, but they're not going to be able to. So the end of the day, they're going to have to continue to print money, or else the other option is a politically non-expedient option, and that is to tank the entire market and tank the bond market. And the second that they get the whiff of that, those money printers will get flipped back on, and you'll see Bitcoin ramp up with the S&P 500, with housing prices again. You'll see all of that start rising again. And so I'm buying right now in preparation for that. Not just Bitcoin, but as you can see, my portfolio here, which I have been doing under the radar from you guys since October. But now I'm sharing it with you, and I will show you weekly my updates. And that is the Bitcoin Summer Portfolio. I hope you like the new idea. Let me know what you think. If you think it's the dumbest idea in the world, let me know. If you think it's pretty cool and you want to egg me on, or you have some advice as to what kind of moves I should make, I will share those not live, but I will share those with you guys on the show. So with that, I am going to bid you adieu. I want to thank you for joining me today and listening to my story. My name is Brian. This has been Bitcoin Summer.